Hey, how's it going? Thank you for joining this 945th episode of Two Bald Guys Talking to our old friends. I'm really glad you've joined. I've never figured out which way to go, but it's me, John Hollins. It's Jay, who literally is the creative genius behind all of this, and he's done all the things. So whatever you do, if you ever watch this, sign up for Jay stuff because he does some really cool stuff for casinos, and he gets to connect us all again, who haven't seen each other for a long time, and so that's pretty much it. Let's start on.
Thanks, John. Hello. So, Daryl.
Oh my God.
Love Daryl.
That name comes around a lot. But Daryl, before we continue, I just want to say, Daryl, thank you for the donation. He got RCCL felt, and he sent over to me. And it's like a nice dice felt. I'm not sure what to do with it. This thing is huge and very heavy, and I think it's from the 90s. But thank you so much. And then a whole bunch of chips. So I'm hoping down the road we can kind of put them in the back there and start displaying chips. I did have a really cool collection that I ended up giving away. But thanks, Daryl. We'll put all your stuff up there for display for the show. So.
I think that would be the best suit ever. You need to have a dice layout suit. It would be really hot and sweaty. Don't wear it in the summer.
Really,
I think it'd be.
I was going to say weighted blanket.
Oh, it is heavy.
Right?
Yeah, no, good call. So, okay. So our special guest today is
Nicola.
John, you should know how to say this. You're Welsh.
I know. For God's sake, what am I thinking? Nicola, man, it's so cool to see you. I mean, literally, it's been like, oh God, forever.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I was still bald, apparently, when I saw you last time. So at least something's consistent. I had no hair then, and I still have no hair now. But yeah, it's great to see you again.
Thank you.
I'm so excited
to see you guys.
I'm so excited to hear about what's happened and with you and Matt and everything.
Yeah. Well, wow. There's so much since, we left the casino. I did some waitressing jobs. Matt was bartending and he was also going to school. He works now at the Zebra Child Protection Center. So he, not to be a buzzkill, but he does the forensic interviews for kids who have been physically or sexually abused, and that information or that goes onto a CD and goes to court, and they present that in court when needed. So it's pretty heavy subject matter, but he really enjoys his job. I worked at ADAC for a bit, and then where did I go? ADAC got taken over by AHS, and so my job duties changed and everything. And then I now work at AGLC in the procurement department.
Wow, that is so cool.
That really is cool. One thing I want to say that, go back to Matt, I always found Matt was like really empathetic, and I think that's probably like a perfect career for him. So if you see him say, I think he's doing what he was destined to do. So he was very funny. So yeah, he might have been a great comedian, and he gave it all up to be something that's probably way better for the humanity than making people laugh.
Yeah, no, he is a really great team there. Like, it's a multidisciplinary team with Children's Services and the Edmonton Police Services, and then their houses are they work under the nonprofit charity group or the organization, not a charity group, Zebra. So Zebra has their volunteers and their advocates and their directors or a director, and then they all have Children's Services and the EPS working there too. So yeah, it's good. He's been there for 8 years now. So yeah, he really enjoys it, and we're doing good. We've got 2 kids, one 11, one 9, and they're lots of fun and keep us busy, right?
That's so cool. So, like now that you work with the AGLC, do you ever like part of your role? Does it also connect with like casinos at all?
Yeah, well, it does a lot of the back end stuff. So I guess just examples of like we get a lot of contracts that go through procurement that require services and work for casinos, like a cabling contract. It's there's so many different varieties of things that go through procurement, but we get lots of purchase orders for spare parts for VLTs and slot machines. Yeah, it's I'm trying to go into detail here without boring the pants off of you guys.
Oh no, this is interesting. I like hearing about this for sure.
Yeah, it's the back end of the system, and we get different. Like there's a rec that will come in, and it's an IOR, which means that it's an immediate operational requirement. That means VLT down or slot machine down. Woo, and we always joke around. We're like whoop whoop, like let's get it moving. So but we get there's a lot of cannabis right now. Casino stuff is obviously slowed down because of COVID thing. There's big contracts that go through there with with the logistics operator for the liquor warehouse, for online gambling. So we're all like a part of stuff like that. So, and go through the process of hiring a vendor or picking, you have to go through an RFP process where people submit their bids and you have to pick the people who meet the requirements. And then within the threshold too, I can't share any numbers with you. It's all confidential. And then they award to the vendor, the chosen vendor. So yeah, it's interesting stuff.
That's really cool. One thing that I'm sure, because we're all kind of like tied into this kind of community, the casino community. So I just have a question. What got you into casinos in the first place?
Oh, sorry. Say again. You cut out.
Sorry. So what got you into casinos in the first place?
I was living with a lady. Her name was Wendy Sabrin, and she was just she was a firecracker of a lady. She was super awesome, super friendly. And this is she was working at the casino when the casino was by the Ice Palace, and there was a Zellers right next to it. So that's where she worked. And then she told me about a training opportunity to become a blackjack dealer, and it was through K-Days. So you work your K-Days, and then you get some experience, and you go and apply for a casino. So that's how I got started in it. So did you go through you went to K-Days, got trained in K-Days, and then you got because I know a lot of people that I've worked with over the years, and they got trained in K-Days and kind of got plucked because they used to kind of like headhunt, the casinos, I suppose. So we used to headhunt and pick them. So where did you go from K-Days? Which casino did you go to? K-Days, I went to ABS because, is it ABS? Is that the acronym? Yes, okay. I worked there for maybe a couple of weeks, but it was really on the opposite end of town for me, so it really didn't work well, and I wanted to work closer to where I lived, so I really kind of had my eye on Palace, and plus I also knew a few people there, so I applied and got the job, and yeah, they were like, oh my God, we shouldn't have hired her.
To be honest, though, I think after I started, and remember Darren Evans? I think they stopped hiring Welsh people after that. They're like, that's it, no more. That's it. We tried it once. We tried it twice.
No,
we're not going to have these guys.
No, there was still people from Wales coming in. Yeah. You must love Edmonton. Everybody from Wales must love Edmonton. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's
yeah. Go ahead.
It's the mild winters. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
So we're saying Nicola.
Yeah,
Daryl says John can say it.
Yeah, a lot of people in Canada say Nicola or Nicole, or of course in the casino, the advertisement, the commercial at the time was the Ricola. So I heard that nonstop from the effing players and then also my coworkers, and I'm like, yeah, okay, haha. After the 100th time, you're like.
But to be honest, that you think I should know how to say it because it's my sister's name. And she's older than me, so I've known it all my life. It's not like, oh yeah, but for the first 40 years I didn't know it. But yeah, no, she's older than me, so I've always known it. So sorry about saying it wrong.
No worries. I'm so used to it.
Yeah, no, we were trying. Yeah, I knew about that because I knew because I was working there with you at the time, and yes, it was very excessive, and that's kind of why we called it No Pun Zone today. So that's the name of the title because of that simple situation. So,
but saying that though, I remember one time I was still working in the Palace Casino, and I broke a tooth, and I had to go to the emergency hospital, like in the university, like the dentist, right? And I went there and I wrote my name down as like John, Jon, Holland. And the woman heard the accent and she's like, Jon? I was like, John? She's like, Jon? And I was in so much pain. I was like, I just don't care. Call me whatever you want. I just need to see a dentist. This is really hurting. And so she said, Jon, can you come? And I was like, okay. So I just gave in. I was like, okay, you can call me Jon. That's fine.
That's so funny. It's like you're like Swedish.
Exactly. I was like, I don't even slightly sound sweet. Hello, Jon.
Yeah.
that's ML. ML says hi.
Oh, ML and I work together at AGLC. Well, she works in another department, but I see her all the time. She's
lucky.
She's awesome. I love her. I miss her.
Okay, one more before John continues. Daryl asks, do you remember your P number?
Oh, what was it? I posted it. Is 88 something? Is it?
Wow.
Now I'm trying to. It's right up at the top here. Hold on a second. It's like 4 digits. 7786.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Old.
That's like the dark ages.
When I got into the industry, that was when it was just right on the edge of it, where there was only so many licenses allowed in Edmonton or in Alberta. So the casinos actually weren't open 7 days a week, and they had to actually have there was times where you had a long weekend or something because it was like that that gap in that charity thing. I don't know the actual back end of it, but it was like there were so many casinos that couldn't be open during a certain time frame, I guess. So there was times where you were open or closed for the 3 days. But then when I started, I think that's when it started being open 6 days a week, and then it just kind of gradually grew from there to crazy hours, right?
That's what Daryl says.
Nice. I got you beat, Daryl. Respect your elders.
Yeah. But I think Daryl started when he was about 45. So, honest to God, I love Daryl. I swear to God, I do. Because he's got such a great humor, and I make fun of him all the time. And to be honest, he makes fun of me all the time, so it's all good.
No, Daryl, I remember Daryl. It was a lot of fun.
So, out of anything, what do you miss most about the time you were in casinos?
Oh my God, I'm such a social butterfly, so I really miss. I was pure shenanigans back then too. I couldn't wait to finish work so I can go out drinking. I was terrible. I do miss it. When you have a good night at the casino and you get really great players and you just you have nights like that, and of course you get the opposite end where people are just calling you F and whatever when you take their money. But I miss that, and I miss those every 45 minutes or every 40 minutes you get a break. Yeah, I miss the friendships, definitely. And the pocket cash.
I because we've talked about this before, and I think like I don't think I mean like I worked in the casinos for like 19 years all over the place, whatever. But I don't think I've had any job since I left, which was like 15 years ago, where you have so much, like a lot of nights you have so much fun, right? You're like, oh my God, I had so much, I laughed all night. You know what I mean? Like there was nights where you like, you were the other, your friends and stuff like that. And you're laughing while you're working. And then you go on break and you're like, oh my God, this is a great break. I've got all these other cool people and I'm laughing all the time. And you're like, oh my God. And at the end of the night, you're like, oh yeah, here's your tips. You're like, oh, okay, then let's go
Yeah.
drinking. And do you know what I mean? And then it carries on.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly it, right? And that's so funny you bring that up about you look at you when you sign in and you see who's on your break and you're like, oh yeah.
I remember I used to like whenever I used to work day shifts. Sam Shisianko, remember Sam? She used to be like, "Oh, John, what break you on?" And we're like, "Oh, I'm on whatever break it was." She's, oh yeah, okay. Well, then like, me and her we used to play cards, and she used to just like, yeah, we don't like your breaks would be kind of like, oh, you know what the whole day would be like, depending on the people were like who were there on your breaks. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm on breaks with these people. Oh yeah, this will be fun. And I think it was like we were lucky and fortunate, to be honest. I think we were on breaks and all that kind of stuff in the staff rooms before like phones and before the
Mm,
isolations and things like that. Because I think recently we've talked about that, where now people go on break and they're like, okay, you're on your phone. Whereas before you'd be on break and you're playing cards or you're laughing and joking with people, and it was way people like socialized a lot more, right? So I'm not
mm.
sure if now people do the same thing as we used to do back then, which is kind of sad, to be honest.
It is. I have lots of fond memories of joking around and just um, BSing about a really awful player that somebody just had and just having some dark humor about it. And in the Big Two, I miss Big Two.
I still, to this day, I never knew Big Two until I played in the Palace Casino. I went to and Sam, who I still rib to this day, 20 years later, I was like, Sam. Sam told me. Remember, the loser used to shuffle, right? And Sam taught me like the rules and like half the rules, and I would shuffle all the time. And she's like, oh no, sorry, I forgot that rule. You lose. I was like, okay. And then it'd be like, oh, I forgot that rule. You lose again. So I'd lose like the first day. I like shuffled every hand all day. And then I was like, this seems weird. She's just conning me. And then she did. She basically played me. And then I was like, okay, fine. I get it. So yeah.
Oh my God. What a troublemaker. She's hilarious, eh?
But so yeah, and it was, and the thing is, and that was it. I mean, like, it was like, oh man, we like playing cards, all different kinds of card games and stuff like that. But I think it was like crib and all those different other games we used to play, and it was a way, and it was like we come and we'd be like, oh my God, get your coffee, get your cigarettes, play cards, laugh and joke, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this in 15 minutes
Yeah.
and eat, and like,
Yeah. Oh, I remember people having a cigarette and eating at the same time. And I used to like, and I loved having my cigarette during that break. But when I saw people eating and smoking, I was like, I just, yeah, I wanted to lose it. Like, I think Don DeRoche used to smoke and eat, but then, yeah, I think he quit smoking like probably the last couple of years I was there. But sorry, Don, I didn't mean to like. Saying, telling him that now I was nauseous every time he was eating and smoking.
I like how this comes out like 20 years later. Oh yeah, by the way.
Yeah, but by the way, Don, used to make me nauseous.
So
It's
yeah, Nicola, anybody else that you wanted to call out on the Casino Industry Canada group? Since
Oh
we
my
are
God.
streaming.
Right?
I'm just kidding.
Well, I gotta say, like, you know what, honestly, to like go back in time, I would like to probably apologize to all those games managers and supervisors for calling in sick when I was like out, drinking too late, or or all the times that I was probably a minute or two late going back to my table to relieve somebody because you were trying to get McDonald's in you or whatever it was. But yeah, I don't think I can call out anybody else, but I shouldn't.
It's all good. You started in K-Days, you went to ABS, and then you went to Palace. How long were you in the casino industry for the people that never got to work with you?
8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
That's
I've been in
good.
the industry for about 8 years. So.
What was your favorite game to deal?
I really like poker. I probably wasn't the best dealer, and my math was shit. Oh, sorry, can I swear?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's okay.
It's not for kids. I put that filter on when I post.
I really enjoyed poker. I really enjoyed, I really enjoyed dealing that game. I wish I kind of expanded my knowledge and learned roulette and craps and stuff. I think maybe my math skills probably held me back from that type of stuff. But yeah, and even like when you get like a baccarat table, like a high limit baccarat table, it's really hopping and everybody's, in a good mood, then, that was always fun, right? But I gotta say poker.
I think for me, and I think most of the people who have come on it, it's most of like kind of like the social games, the social aspect of like when you like the players are like, you're having fun with the players and the pit boss is there and they're into it too, and you know what I mean, like, or the houseman or whatever it is, boxman, whatever. When it becomes like, oh my god, it's like less like work and more like, oh my god, I just got paid for that. I just sort of laugh for like an hour and a half, and he's like, I mean, it's a weird industry, and I'm not sure everybody can be in it. But and at the time, I think it when you look back, you're like, oh my god, it's a weird entertainment industry, right? That we all kind of we were in, and and it's strange and like for people now because it's changed now, right? I mean, I'm sure if any of us walk into a casino now, you're like, oh my god, this used to be fun. These guys look miserable,
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I do. I've lots of fun. The only time that I remember not having fond memories is when my table was next to close and then some player sat down. I was like, right. Or dealing just one person, one player used to drive me nuts. But it was so much fun, and it time just flies by when you're working in that industry. Like it's just I think it's just maybe the 45 minutes on and 15 off, or in rotating tables and stuff, and then having a pit boss joking around with you, and usually the players are pretty lowbrow with their humor also, so it really does make for a fast, entertaining shift. And you're like, and at the end, they give you some cash and you're like, okay.
I remember like I very rarely, by the time I got to coming to like Canada or whatever, I mean, I didn't often deal I think I only dealt blackjack once in 5 years in the Palace Casino, but before that I never dealt blackjack too much anyway. But I used to hate it when people used to play like I don't know why I'm going on this, but when they used to play like the first box and the last box, there's like two players, so there's first and last, and I'd be like, yeah, why are you so far apart? They're like, oh, I have to play anchor, and I'd be like, oh, you're annoying. And so I'd be like, okay, can you move closer to him because it's kind of a pain to go like that all the time. And in the end, I'd be like, okay, I'll just deal the cards in the middle.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, they're not in front of me. I don't care. It's just because he was it just seemed like out of sync. And I remember like I'm just gonna deal like this because you're assholes and I'm gonna do it.
Oh my god, not all heroes wear capes, I'll tell you that. That's funny.
So we have go ahead, John.
No. Okay, on that note, what was the baddest thing that you did while you worked in the casino and got away with it?
What? Sorry, say that again. What was
So,
the?
so what was the baddest thing you did in the casino that you can look back and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I got away with that in the casino"?
Your thing is cutting out again. It's doing that. I don't know if it's just. Is it me? Do I need headphones?
Yes, it's you.
Okay, maybe I need headphones. Do you think that would help? Do you think that will help if I get headphones?
Yeah, sure, if
Sure.
you'd like to. Yeah,
Okay, can
absolutely.
you guys hold on?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Of course,
So,
we can
yeah,
hold on.
Sorry.
we can hold on for 2 hours. So
Yeah. So, Jay, can you hear me? Is it? I mean, like we're messing with Nicola. Is it me? Like, or was it her?
no, I just think maybe it's the connection. I don't know. You've been pretty smooth. Yeah, I
Jay, I was. It's been a long time since. It's a long time since I was smooth.
don't. Smooth like sandpaper. Yeah.
like old man.
So while we wait for Nicola, I just wanted to show people that I went to like River City Games and they had these things, the Monarch cards. And I know nobody likes cards on this because like the first 5 episodes we were trying to give cards away, but apparently this is like the higher end type of playing card. I don't know. I'm probably gonna open these up at some point and show it on the channel. So, but the other thing I have is something here, and I think it's actually pretty cool. I'm gonna open this up too, but it's some really cool cards, and I guess like when you riffle them, they have like an animation in the back. So yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah, and I was just like I had to get them because we're a casino channel, so why don't I show those in the point of view of a dealer though? I'm sure this is like for magicians and stuff, but yeah, I'd love to just do that for the point of view for a dealer. So okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna go back to cards. Do you remember like in the palace sometimes and it'd be like, okay, we need to close up, and it'd be like, okay, can you go like that table's dead, go and help them sort the cards and things like that. And I've been sorting cards for at that point like a long time. And then he brought out like like the handheld baccarat where there wasn't the numbers. And I'd be like, what the hell? I was like, oh, I couldn't sort them. I was like, no, sorry, can't do it. I just slow you down. I was just like sort them in. Yeah, I was just sort them into like the suits and go. I just go ahead. I can do this.
Okay, I think our guest is back here.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. Sorry. Hopefully this will help.
Okay, cool.
But so, John, were you asking about the baddest thing I did in the casino?
Yes, everyone wants to know because I'm sure you did lots.
Oh wait! Before you answer that, someone wants to say hi, and maybe you have a story with this person. I don't know. Let's see.
Hi, Nicola.
Oh my God.
Hi.
Oh my
How are
God.
you?
Good. How are you?
Good. You know what? I can't believe that out of everybody, you look the exact same. 20 years, you look the exact same.
Thank you. Thank you. I was going to say, I said everybody's kind of getting older except for Joe Chan. I saw him not long ago and I'm like, the guy looks 16.
I
look 16
think
too. We're all older, fatter, and balder.
I think Joe Chan sold his soul to the devil. To be honest, I mean, like he's like the Chinese Benjamin Button. He just seems to be getting younger every time I see him. I'm like, how the hell do you like? I'm Facebook friends with him. I'm like, oh my God. Every time he posts stuff, I'm like, you look younger than I met you for 20 years ago.
I know. I saw him in St. Albert not long ago. We were his kids were going to the same swim lessons that ours were, and I'm just like, whoa. I'm like, he did not change a bit. I'm like, Joe Chan.
I don't know how he does it.
Okay. So sorry, yeah, I needed to bring Mike into the channel because he's always on a limited time constraint because he's so busy at work, even though I see what he does at work. So
no, you know what? I would have been on earlier. I was fixing my roof. Okay, there was a little bit of damage last night. So
no, yeah, I hear you. I remember that story. So, but I'm glad that you're awake. Oh, and this person is awake as well.
Oh,
Yeah, Joe.
babyface Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Does he have a
His-
parental permission to be on here? Is that
Right.
Yeah, because by now he's probably like 13, and he just, how he looks and stuff. Yeah,
His ears must have been burning, eh? Like,
I think that's what it is. I don't know. He puts us all to shame. He just looks so young, and everything's put together. I'm like, what's going on?
Now you're just rubbing it in here. All right. So, John had his question. While you're thinking about it, Daryl says she changed her hair.
really? Yeah. Well.
Nicola or Mike?
Oh.
I think Mug's hair is in a box under his bed. To be honest.
I'm gonna remember. It's gone now. It's gone. It's shaved.
Why am I the only bald one without a hat on? That's what I'm saying.
I would take my hat off, but I am absolutely frozen from being outside for like 2 hours. So
Yeah, like I get it. I didn't know what a squall was until I had to Google it.
oh god,
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah.
Okay. I know you have the bad story, but can you answer this question first from Daryl? Do you remember cracking?
Oh my God. It was a really, really tacky, lowbrow joke, I don't even want to share it. It was really.
Okay, you don't have to. You don't have to.
Okay, yes, I remember. And because the thing is that Daryl was kind of giggling almost like periodically through the year of like just kind of mentioning, remember the joke, and I'm like.
Daryl's pretty simple, so we're okay.
I had a lot of bad jokes. Yeah, they were. Yeah, no class back then.
That's okay. A lot of us have no class right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
Okay, so John's question. We didn't mean to veer off from it, but is there something that you got away with? Okay, John, can you actually re-ask that question? Something that you did that you got away with.
Like we've all had stories where we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that and got away with it. I didn't get fired. So do you have a story that like you look back and think, oh my God, I did this and I didn't get fired?
Oh God, there were a lot of times where like I never really did I think I had like some drinks before I went to work and people knew that I had some drinks. I think that was like I wasn't blitzed, but I was a little bit giggly. But things were funnier than they should have been, right? That was probably, but I know there was a lot of rumors of people had rumors about me for some reason, like that I was doing weed and I was smoking pot in the poker room in Palace in that little back. There's like a little back area and stuff. And I'm like, I don't think I would be able to get away with that. If the opportunity was there, maybe, but I was like,
yeah, you didn't share? Like, this is wow.
there was but I don't think I ever really did anything to get fired, but there was like I did really push the envelope with I think like Steve Robotham and Chris Burke and Ellen Van Beek and Shelley and Wyatt saying like I'm not feeling well, I'm calling in sick, because I was up all night partying my ass off or so yeah, they really put up with me, I think, and maybe even like telling low jokes at the table, where like those lowbrow jokes that Daryl was talking about, telling them at the table that I should have gotten a talking to.
So one of the things, like I think, like the casinos that was kind of like, I wouldn't say acceptable. It was kind of like, oh, it was how many times did all of us come in for a day shift, amazingly hungover? Like and you think it's not even like we started at 9. It's like 12 o'clock or whatever it was then, and you come in and I was like, oh my god, I may be sick. Like, and you started, and you're like, yeah, and then you're working, and everybody's like, oh man, John's out so hungover. Let's just make fun of him, or you know what I mean? Like, but it was kind of like commonly acceptable, right? It was just so weird and funny.
Yeah, there was I remember there was a few times where I would say I needed to be relieved from the table, and I had to beeline it to the bathroom to have a big hangover puke, you know.
But when you think of it, like, can you imagine doing that in like regular careers?
I
Like,
know.
you're working in the office, like, and it's 12. You're like, oh, I turned up for work. It's 12 o'clock. I have to go. I have to go and throw up because I was partying till like 9 o'clock this morning. I've had 3 hours sleep, and it's a Wednesday. You know, you're like, what? You're like, what the hell are you talking about? What kind of yeah, we need to send you to HR. But in casinos, they're like, oh my god, this is so funny. I might have been with you. Do you know what I mean?
It was the norm. It really was. It was so funny. Yeah, like because we didn't really have a weekend, right? So like a Wednesday, going out on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and I remember going out like for things called industry nights at the bars. So each bar had, like, if you worked in an industry, and sometimes you'd be able to pull it off, or like, hey, look, I work at the casino, but I work in the bar, you know, and then they would let you in with no admission or whatever, right? So, but yeah, there was a lot of times where during the weekday, and you're pretty off the next day, or going out partying and then opening the door. I remember playing poker and opening the door from the poker room, and the sun was up, and I was just like, it was the most horrifying thing. I almost felt like I reached like rock bottom, where the birds were chirping, and I'm like, what just happened?
So,
Yeah.
Nick, out of, like, you know, like, you spent 8 years in casinos and you worked in a few in Edmonton, whatever. So looking back, was there something you wish you did in casinos that you didn't do?
I wish I went on the ships. Yeah. I just I think when I was young, if I was younger, I wish I did that. I just hear a lot of good stories about it.
I think, I mean, like,
oh wow. You would have been amazing on the ships. I am telling you that. Your personality.
I might have been dead if I went on the ships.
Well, yeah,
you might.
We're okay.
Yeah, you might never have come back, to be honest. If you're like, oh, Nicole, you still. To be honest, you might not have looked the same as you do today. We're like, oh, 25 years on cruise ships. We're like, oh, doing good. Here's my liver.
Right? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Daryl agrees. So.
I would have not have survived. Like, I was like, I'm just saying, like, in my 20s, I was like, where is the party? And I found the party, and I'm like, okay, this party isn't ending. And if the party ended, I was like, where's the next party?
We have a new comment. Hello, Sue. Sue P. So welcome to the channel. I just wanted to say hi. She says it was not just a job; it was a lifestyle. Totally agree.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
thank you for the comment. Welcome.
Well, I think it was. I mean, because at the time, I mean, like, when I came into the palace, I mean, I was older than most of the people. Well, I can say most of the people, but I mean, I was kind of like a different age group for a lot of people, But I think it's a great career for, like, people in the early 20s, you know, like, if you're going to school, because of the flexibility and things like that. And it's so much fun. I mean, like, I got into it when I was 17, and I turned 18 when I was training. And my brother, who did it for a year in a gap year from university, and he said, there's lots of parties. There's lots of guys your age, and you'll have a lot of fun. And I did it for like 19 years, and I still kept doing it. I was like, oh my God. And I just think there's a tremendous opportunity when you go there to do different things, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and take you to different places if you choose to, right? And you meet some of the best people, I think, right? I mean, you look at it like, most of us here, I think, have met, and even when, from these groups have met their significant others in casinos.
Yeah, Matt and I met in the casino, and yeah, the rest is history, right?
Yes. Okay. So here's my thing. That's cool what John just said, but now on the flip side, did you find that you actually lost some friends by having a job like this? Because you did mention that there aren't any weekends. It was really tough because like when I started, I lost a lot of friends because they were all Monday to Fridays. Did you seem to just gravitate towards like people in the industry more at that time?
Yeah, I think that I think that's kind of throughout life, though. I think that when you're younger, you find a job, or you have a group of friends that you start off with because you hang out and you meet, and then you guys take different paths and have different jobs with different hours. And it's kind of the same with being an adult. When you have your friends, but then your kids are in the same sports and your schedules change, so then all of a sudden you end up losing those friends, so you kind of have to go with who's available. It's always good to keep in touch, but yeah, there's a lot of friends that I we kind of drifted apart. We weren't as solid because they were working the 9 to 5s, or they had other things going, right? And I was working until 2 o'clock in the morning, or and then sleeping till whenever, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind of the sad reality. Oh my God, Chris. Oh, I love Chris. We used to live in the same apartment building together. He was such a good friend.
Everybody
He goes,
loves
yeah. Chris is now he's older. He goes antiquing, which is always fun.
Chris. That's right.
Yeah, Chris is awesome. He's so much. I think he's one of the funniest guys I've ever met. But now he's old, and I think he wears like cardigans. He goes antiquing, so that's nice.
Cardigans.
It'll be funny doing that.
Okay, so Mike, you're still awake. That's great. What are your memories? Do you have any specific memories that you had at your time at the Palace with Nicola?
You know what? I remember first.
Be careful.
Nicola, I remember first meeting you, and I don't really remember this. Okay, I'll say this, but CB brings it up all the time because I met you and CB before I actually started working in the casino, and it was at Crazy Horse. I was there for a friend's birthday party, and no, you beat me in getting posters. I thought I was I had the best aim with a loony. I swear to God, I had the best aim, and you killed me in getting posters. And CB was buying me drinks. I had no idea who this guy. And like 3 weeks later, I was working at Palace. I'm like, oh my God, you're my boss. Like, and you were there. And I don't think. I mean, I was maybe a little drunk. I'll say that at the time, but I still remember. I'm like, you were there, and I don't think you remembered me at all. And I don't. That's fine because it was a really drunk night, but that's kind of what I remember the first time meeting you. And for the rest of the time, I remember you being the person that you wanted to have the break with. You were the life of the break room. You were the life of the party. You were the life of everything. You were calm, cool, collected, and just so nice to everybody too. Like I don't think I've ever seen you mad.
Oh my God, you're so that's so touching. That's so sweet. I remember, like, the only thing I remember going to the break room and going, that effing prick, and he didn't tip and blah blah blah.
That's true. That's true.
But I think all of us did that. That was like the first 90 seconds when you walked in the break room. You're like, that guy was a bah, and you swear, blah, blah. Then you get your coffee and your cigarette, you sit down, and then you have a laugh and joke with everybody, right?
Yeah. No, I love debriefing about stuff like that, about just awful players. And I love that it kind of really created that camaraderie with having those breaks, of just talking about, just the awful time. And then they were like, yeah, oh my God, I can't believe it. And they were talking about their awful time from the week before. And, oh, that guy's back again. Oh no. And
it's but even the times again.
Bird Lady. Oh my God.
Or even the times when it was funny. I remember the times when I was in the Palace Casino when the craps table was by the stairs. Remember the stairs? When it was by there. And a few times, I shouldn't laugh, but it was just weird that you see these guys bringing in their elderly parents in a wheelchair, and they would just park them there and then disappear. And they'd be like, and there's me sitting in the chair, staring at this old person staring at me for hours on end. I would and we can't roll them up to the table because they're not allowed to sit down. I was just like, hi, are you okay? Do you need a coffee? And it was just, now thinking back, it's like, this isn't real. They were like, do you need anything? I have no idea if they understood me, to be honest. But I was like,
oh my God.
Yeah. And they'd be like, I remember they used to be those plastic plants. Remember those underneath the stairs?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I remember, I know I go off on a tangent. And they used to do that with the people used to go and clean ashtrays and stuff like that. And I remember one time they made somebody go around and watered them, with a spray gun, and they're like, shh, 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 shh. And I was like, after about 3 or 4 days, I'm like, okay, I think the joke's gone far enough. And I said, do you understand they're not real? And then he's like, son of a bitch.
Oh my God. You really did see the lowest of low people, eh? They, just wheeling your parent in and just okay, I'll be back in 3 hours later.
Yeah. I remember it was one time sitting box, and this guy came in, and he's sitting box, whatever. This guy came in, and he's just standing there, and all of a sudden security came and dragged him out, and he had no pants on. He had nothing. He was like, yeah, it was like, what? Yeah, how did he sneak in that far? Nobody stopped him. That was the question I had, but I was like, oh my God.
So you're IDing everybody going in, but somebody can walk in with no pants.
Yeah, he's just nude. Waist down. It was like, what's going on? This is crazy.
Rum Jungle.
Yeah.
That's where
Rum Jungle. Oh my God. That's the one thing that you creating this group really brought back some memories. I'm like, oh yeah.
I'm sorry. We're sorry.
Yeah, well, it's kind of good because I may have lost those memories in a night of stupor, and I'm like, oh yeah, right, I remember that now.
I remember he used to go and sit on break, especially Friday and Saturday nights in the summer, and he used to have the picnic table outside, and we could sit there and we'd smoke and see all the fights outside Rum Jungle.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my God, look at that over there.
Oh my God. But that's all that palace area is now, it's Starlight, right? Or Starlight?
Starlight, yeah.
Starlight.
Yeah. So it's whatever Rum Jungle was, that's all been taken over and it's all casino now.
Yes.
Casino. It's all Starlight.
Yeah. Correct. That's right.
Have you been there yet or no?
No, because I'm gonna
it's
say
okay. I've been there once or something, so it's fine.
Yeah, Matt and I went by, I think when I was pregnant with my first, and the palace was on strike because they were doing the union thing, and I think that Matt got the ball rolling on that, so he's not allowed in that casino anymore.
Oh,
He's I think he went in like years later just to say hi to like Steve Robotham or Chris Burke, and they like escorted him out, and it was like years and years and years down the road, and he was working with children's services, and they're like, nope.
wow. It's,
Oh, wow.
it's Starlight now, so
Yeah, it's not even the same name. So
Oh, so maybe he's not on that list anymore. They don't have
Yeah.
the big
I'm sure
big
it's
book of people.
He's no longer blackballed.
yeah. Sorry, Nicola, you look exactly the same as you did
Oh,
from
thank
like
you.
20 years ago. This
Oh,
person,
Jason.
Jason, you also look the same as you did 20 years ago. Judging by that photo.
I
Nice to
saw
see
Jason
you.
a couple of years ago. I saw him, and the same thing. Our kids were having the same swim lessons, or in the same area. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Chris also says. he has a
Cardigan.
See, and I knew he would. I knew he would. I love Chris. He's awesome.
It is. First beautiful day in the neighborhood, buddy.
Won't you be my neighbor?
So I have a question for you. You got to deal in the 90s. Well, we all did, right? Was there something that we could have done back then that you can't do now? Now I know, like you haven't gone back. Like I've gone back. It's definitely different. But what made the 90s so special? Like being a dealer in the 90s is completely different than like now. So what was it that you remember that made it really memorable and special?
I'm gonna kind of just copy what John said, because you know that being in the break room and having those chats without the phones, I think was great, you know, and I can't imagine what it's like now with, I'm sure that once you go on your break, everybody's just looking at their screens, right? So I'm sure there's some discussion and stuff, but you know, like for doing things differently, or what I would miss. I don't know. I'm like, that's a really hard question. That's like, I feel like I'm in an interview all of a sudden.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there is a panel here of 3. No, wait. So the reason why I ask is because, you know, like I said, like John and I and Mike, you know, when we started doing this, is about connecting people and just talking about things. And you know, in some instances the industry is better, in some instances the industry is worse. There's been this evolution. And some of the best times that I had was working with all 3 of you, you know, even at once. And what was it that made it different? What was it that made it change? Was it the fact that people went east, people went on the ships? Was there too many casinos that kind of opened up? You know, like there's a lot of things that occurred. And I like asking people because whether it's better or worse right now, it's still different. So
that's a really good point when you say that there's maybe too many casinos. So, you know, back in the day, there were only three casinos. There was the ABS Palace and the Baccarat, right? But even before then, there was just ABS and Palace. So even Baccarat was like fairly new. So I think that as the industry grew and they started building more casinos, maybe the magic left a little bit, and everybody kind of thought there were greener pastures at other casinos. So then maybe the team broke apart a little bit, and then all of a sudden there's new people that come in, you know, which is always is good anyways. But then of course you kind of lose that foundation, or maybe it loses its magic because there's so many casinos now. Or yeah.
Mm-hmm. Nope, that's a good question. That's a good answer. Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, John.
I think one of the things that I remember, though, you know, from like when I worked with all of you guys, like back in the Palace, is even when we were dealing, we tried to have a good time, right? We tried to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like whether it was with the players or whether it was with, I mean, obviously sometimes they're like, oh man, these guys are awful and they just want me to deal, whatever. But I think it was more enjoyable. And like, it looked like, for the most part, we tried to have fun while we were there for like the 7 hours, whatever. But I think now that has changed. It just looks like whenever I go into casinos, which isn't too often, to be honest, they don't look like they're enjoying themselves, right? It's just like, it looks like community service. It's like, oh my God, 4 more shoes and I'm out of here. You know what I mean? It's so, I just think it's a different atmosphere now. And it's sad, I think.
Yeah, they're like, I remember a lot of, if it really all depended on the players. So if you got players that were there and they wanted to have fun, I was having fun, right? Mm-hmm. When you get players that are just like, put down the cards, I don't want to talk, it was really long and boring and awful. But there was a time a few years ago, I think Matt and I were, it was a little bit ago, we were working in the bar. He was bartending and I was waitressing, and we went with a bunch of coworkers to K-Days, and we went to the craps table, and I said to one of the dealers, I said, I have no idea how to play this. I used to work in the casino. Can you show us? And he stared at me and he didn't even answer me. He just he looked at me like I had a third eye on my head, and I'm just like, okay, I guess we'll just go.
Wow.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, it was cold. I was like, oh, somebody's not digging it, but
that's one thing. I think customer service was kind of, I don't know, beaten into us a little bit, but beaten into not from just management, from other dealers. Like you be nice, you're gonna get tips, and that benefits us all. And it's just gone away, like from the industry in a whole. It's just customer service or friendliness. It's gone. It's left.
That's sad. It really.
Yeah.
It's really sad because I have to like kind of like what John said. It definitely like you had fun with the people that you work with, and you had fun with the players, and of course, you had those moments where you just did your job and didn't do anything, right? So. But
Nicola, I have a question. Like you have a couple of your kids are young, and before all this whole pandemic, when they were, I'm sure they were in sports. How often were you asked to volunteer for like casinos once they knew you worked in casinos previously?
Not even that. When I work at the AGLC, they have like a Christmas party every year. Of course, we didn't have one last year, but one year they have like a bunch of these practice tables, or I think they're from like regulatory and investigations, has these tables in some storage area. So they said, hey, we're just going to do like a fun casino. And they were like, hey, who used to work in the casino? And I'm like, and then I start dealing, and then people are like, you've dealt before. And I'm like, because people who've never dealt blackjack before, of course, the card comes out of the shoe, and then they're like,
that's how I deal.
Well, that's true. But that's true. Like, you know what? Get some investigators, get some inspectors, get down there, get dealing. I know you're watching this right now because you're taking notes and everything. But Mike, I know you're watching. Deal the game. Mike, Jim, deal. Deal before you judge.
But we did. There was a few times where we ended up, our kids were in daycare and they needed charity stuff, and so we ended up working in the casino. Matt worked one time, I think, in St. Albert and Century, and then I did the Yellowhead one time. And it was so weird because I worked in the bank, and they wanted me to like lay the chips down, kind of like in a weird and I'm like, how do you do that? And you're like, and I'm like cutting chips, and then they're like, what are you doing? Don't do that. And I'm like, but there's like 5 and 5 and 5 here. That makes sense, right?
I volunteered recently. Well, I say recently, it was kind of like last year, and because of the whole COVID, they changed the hours. And it was like, I swear to God, it was like 11 hours or something I was there. It was awful. I
Oh my
hated it. I was like,
God.
oh my God. I got the, and it was just like, by the time I left, it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was like, this blows, man. I couldn't believe it. It was like, I was like, oh, I'm never going to volunteer again. I probably will, because they'd be like, John, can you do this? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do it. But I mean, oh my God, it was not that much fun. And the best thing, like when you volunteer, they feed you. They say, oh, you can have a meal. I went over. I'm not gonna say the casino. I went over, and they literally kind of like threw the food in a bag, and I kind of went back. And I'm like, where did I go? They're like, I was like, okay. And I went into the corner, and there wasn't like anything. It was like they just threw it all in, and I was like, oh, okay. This is like the worst drive-through ever. And I've just spent 11 hours of my life in this. And it was my son's birthday too. That was the thing. I was
Oh,
like, I was like, yeah. So I'm like the worst parent ever. And it wasn't even
it's like it's for the kids, but then you miss out on your kid that day, right?
Oh, and the
Yeah.
best thing was, it wasn't the kid's birthday that I was volunteering for. It was like the other kid, the other son. So I was like, oh yeah, yeah, preference. Yeah, I'm doing this for this one, not you. And my wife was out of town, so we couldn't celebrate my youngest son's. I'm like a terrible parent, just by the way. We couldn't celebrate my youngest son's birthday on his birthday because my wife was out of town. I was volunteering in the casino, so we're like, okay, your birthday's not today. And because of COVID, he couldn't have any party. So it was like, oh yeah, worst birthday ever. Yeah. So we're putting him in trial,
It's a
later
that's
on he's gonna go to like my dad's the worst ever.
there's perfect storms like that, It's so, oh my goodness. But yeah, I did one, and the food was like I think there was like cheesies and Doritos in the break room, and the people that I was working with, they were so lame, and that's the thing. It makes a difference if you get stuck with a good person and lots of fun, and laughs and stuff like that, and the time goes by. But yeah, but I didn't miss out on my kid's birthday, just to add that.
You're obviously, yeah, you're a way better parent than I am. I'm just I'm just stupid and forgetful. But saying that, I'm obviously not from here. One time I volunteered for one of my kids' schools, I'm like, okay, go to the casino. And I didn't know the other person. And like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, oh, I'm from Wales. And I'm like, oh, I know someone from Wales. And I was like, oh, God, I've heard this for the last 30 years. I was like, oh, that's nice. And they're like, oh, where from? I was like, oh, Cardiff. I'm like, oh, my God, I know someone from Cardiff. I'm like, oh, yeah, really? I'm like, who? And they're like, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, are they from Grangetown? And I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, I went to school with her.
Oh my God.
I shit you not. I swear to God. It was the weirdest thing in my entire life. I then went on Facebook. That when I got home, I was like, oh, my God, I just met this girl in the casino that knows you. She's like, oh, yeah, that's my cousin. I was like, freaking, it was so weird. It was the weirdest thing ever.
Smallest world.
It was so weird.
You're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I know. I was like, oh yeah, but whatever. Do you want to say hello to Jay? Oh, my wife's over there. That's all. She's.
Okay. Quick comment, Jason. We were small staff for quite a few. 91. I like how you put in a range so that you can exclude like Mike and I, since we started later, and John as well. So thanks for doing that. Thanks. So I guess between 91 and 95, it was all right, and then the rest of the years. Anyways, no, but to his point that it was a really tight knit group, and absolutely, like even when Mike and I joined, like it was still kind of like that. It was really cool, and we had our group, and then Baccarat opened up. They had their group of people. ABS was always together, especially in K days when everyone kind of got together. It's not like that anymore, and it's so weird, right? So,
do you remember what? Do you remember there used to be an ABS casino downtown? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was, and when I first came to. I came to Canada in '98. My wife and I got married in '98, and she's like, "Oh, let's go," we went downtown, and it's like, oh, it's a casino. So I went there during the day, and I was like, oh my God, it was kind of grungy. And I accidentally walked into the staff room. I didn't understand. I was trying to find the washroom, and it was like, oh, you walk up. I was like, oh, it's big stairs, so I think it's up there. So I just walked up there, and I was like, oh, there's all dealers here. And the absolute look of disgust, and like, get out. Get out. I was like, where's the washroom? You know, like an idiot. And I got an accident. Like, oh, get out of here. So yeah. So it was.
Did you say, where's the loo?
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking for the loo. Like a complete idiot. You know, where's the loo? I need to pee in the loo. Where's the loo? And they're like, oh, just get up.
Oh.
I love that. I love that casino, and my dad worked there. My brother worked there, and that's I think that's where Mike, you were with me. We after our training, we actually went there. I had my birthday there actually, like my first. Yeah. We kind of went there and we played.
We partied on Sickbo. I remember that.
He said, oh, okay, Jason. Oh my God, coming in again, referring to OG first location. Okay.
Oh.
OG up there. The second generation, apparently, Mike.
The lucky 11.
Holy smokes. Okay. Anyways, Mike, I know you're a busy guy, and I know you've got a lot of hospital work to do tomorrow, and totally appreciate all the work that you do out there, especially at the university with all those really cool people that you get to work with. So thanks for being on tonight, Mike. And any final shout-outs?
I wouldn't miss it for a world. Saying hi to Nicola. It's been so long. So thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on again, and I appreciate it. And you guys enjoy and have a great night.
Take care, Mike.
See you, Mikey. Great seeing you as always.
Say hi to Matt for me.
What?
Say hi to Matt for me, not you.
Oh yeah. Will do.
Okay. See you, Mike.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
So Nick, one question. When like the kids are still quite young right now. When they get older, and if they turn around and said, "Oh, I'm going to go to a casino," what would you say?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think the casino industry is great, but there's also a be careful clause in there, right? I found that a lot of people in the casino got kind of swept up with the gambling, or they did what I did, just drank my face off a lot of the times. But there was a couple of times where I went gambling and I lost way more than I should have. But I would hope that they either like love what they do, or they use that skill to either go and venture off and do some traveling and join the ships, or if they are in school taking something else, that they have that for a second income. Like I think the casino is great for all walks of life, with people who are students, for families that have shift work, like if wife is a nurse, that type of thing, or there's an EPS person that they can do shift work like that. For first term or first job for a long-term job, I think that it's great for people who are into it. So I'd probably warn them a little bit, like saying, it's you hopefully you like it. If you don't like it, then move on to something else, right? So.
No, I agree. I think, Jay and I have talked about this lots of times. I think the flexibility of the casino industry, like, it caters to so many different types of people, right? Like if you're a student, if you're, like parents have multiple shifts, we've talked to different people where they said, okay, I was working full time and my wife was working full time at nights, and we'd switch over the kids, and there's so much flexibility, and I think it helps a lot of people because there's not a lot of different careers that can actually do that. Pick your shifts, and okay, like you're in school and you're like, okay, I'm in university. I maybe I want to work a Friday night just to have some money, but then in the summer I want lots of money just because I want to do other things, right? So I think, and there's a lot of opportunity to actually travel, right? I mean, not just outside of on ships and stuff like that. But even in Canada too, right? I mean, like people are like, okay, I want to move to Ontario. A lot of people did before I came to the Palace, and I think there's a lot of good things going for casinos. A lot of times, they're like, we look at it and, it's a bad thing, but and there are bad elements, but there's bad elements in all things, right?
Yeah, well, and if you have a thick skin, like I remember going into the casino industry, and when you have that first bad player experience, and you're like, oh my God, what did I get into? Like, because majority of the players are pretty good, but you always get that one person who really just digs in, right? And says just awful mean stuff, or so there's those ones, right? But I think it is really accommodating and good for everybody, and if you're able to slough off that stuff and look past it.
One of one of my first shifts ever working in casinos when I was like 18, and literally I'd only been in probably like a week or two. I was dealing with like a Saturday night, and on my table it was like a drunk. Remember like the Golden Girls, like the old women, like that TV show. There was this like drunk woman, looked like that, and she was so drunk, and all she kept saying to me is, "I'm gonna have sex with you," and I was I was like 18 in a couple of days, and I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, what have I got into? And the pit boss watching was crying, laughing, because he could see how terrified I was. And this drunk Golden Girl was like, every time I was on roulette, so I was passing the chips, and and she's like, I love you. And she was probably, I swear to God, in her 80s, drunk. And I was like, what the hell have I gotten myself into? It was terrifying. and the pit boss knew my terror, and he was just crying laughing. He's like, this is the best thing ever. And I think that's what it was, right? I mean, a lot of times it was, that there was dickheads, but there was I think I look back of all the time I spent in casinos, and it was just like the good times, right? I mean, I got the funny times, like, oh my God, like that instance when I was 18, I was like, oh my God, or different things like that, or meeting some really cool people, right? And I just think it was a great industry to be in at the time, and I got so much out of it. I came to Canada because of it, and things like that, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have sex with you. Oh my God, that must be just...
And she was more like, like the really tall one. What was her name? Like Blanche. Whatever it was.
Dorothy. I think it was Dorothy.
It wasn't even like the cute Golden Girl. It was like the scary one.
Yeah, I think Blanche was that horny Golden Girl.
Oh yeah, Blanche the Barb was a horny one. Who was like the tall one? I can't remember. Anyway, she looked more like
Dorothy.
Dorothy. Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah.
She was, and I'm not exactly tall, so this scary drunk Golden Girl. I was like, oh my God.
She would have destroyed you.
Yeah, exactly. Just oh my God, bent me like a stick. Like,
you guys are hilarious. Like this is what we're sitting on right now. That's funny. Okay, so just back to the casino as a career choice, because we do have on the channel, we do, especially on the replay, you're gonna have some of the younger ones kind of chime in and put in some comments. But I guess my question is, if you weren't a dealer, is there something else in the casino that you would do that you would consider something that would be a great, career long term? Because I know, like, what a lot of people see is like, well, casino dealer, slots, whatever, but there's still a lot of other facets in the casino, like resources, food and beverage, security, surveillance. What would be something that you would do apart from being a dealer? Maybe what other industry or what other job would you want? Like a min, for example. What do you think would be a great career move for somebody that's already in the casino industry or wants to jump into the casino industry?
I think that if somebody gets into the casino industry, really enjoys it, and gets really into the whole kind of nitty gritty of how things work in it, it's not really within the casino industry, but I always found in AGLC, like the investigations and regulatory department, really fascinating, like in the anti-money laundering people. It seems really, that would be kind of exciting for me to get into something like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think although I never like got the opportunity to work at AGLC, I think it was something that I totally would have loved to do and kind of made my way to. It's definitely a good career path if you actually started in gaming and kind of went that way. The other one was there's a lot of people that start in surveillance and then they go into like RCMP or they go into gas, which is really cool as well, which also ties with AGLC too in the end. So I think there's a lot of different avenues that people can take. So sometimes when we ask that question, it's like, so yeah, here's the question: what's your opinion on having the casino as a career choice? I think a lot of people are just limited and they think about like what they were doing as like dealers, but I think there's way more than that and a lot more opportunity. And not just that. I mean, like John, I know we always talk about this, but like being on the ships is probably one of the greatest things that like you could do and take out of being just like being a dealer, starting as a dealer, because you get to travel the world and that, right? So
yeah, I think like being on the ships, I think that even if you're not, when you're that age where you're in your 20s, 30s, or even late teens, 18 type of thing, I think that everybody should take that moment and travel, right? And how better way than to go on a ship and make some money, right? It's kind of win-win. So
No, I totally agree, and I like we talk lots about this about like how many opportunities you have as like a 21-year-old to go, okay, I'm going to go and spend 6 months in the Caribbean or 6 months, you know what I mean? Or, I mean, even if you do it once, you go, you know what, I tried it, didn't like it, but I saw some really cool places. But I think it like all kind of travel, it just broadens your horizons, right? Where you meet new people and you get different perspectives about things. And the greatest opportunity you ever have, I think, is to travel, right? To see different things and different people. It's different when you go on vacations, because vacations like, okay, well, but when you go and work somewhere new, it's like you see, or when you go back to, like say, if you go back to Wales or whatever, and you're like, okay, this is kind of a cool place. But I think there's a lot of opportunities, like going to casinos, not just being like a dealer, like you said, going into like, oh, I go into AGLC or to different things, because it's not like gambling's ever going to go away, right?
yeah, they seem to yeah. Enable.
but like really, okay. So for the two of you, here's another thing. I mean, I don't think it's not that bad of a job to be a dealer for a whole whackload of years if you enjoy that part of it. The really good thing that I get out of the casino industry is the fact that if I'm a dealer, you get a break every hour. The level of stress, I mean, you run into the big a-hole every now and then and like a high pressure situation, but really like the level of stress compared to like other jobs is fairly low, right? I mean, the only stress that you're going to put on yourself is if you like challenge yourself at the bar, right? And like if you don't like take care of your body, if you're just like you know what I mean? Like just that whole part of it. But the job itself, I don't know like where you can find a job that you can do for a long period of time, apart from like carpal tunnel or something with your back, right? So.
Yeah. I guess the physical part about it, but yeah, you're right. There's no actual deadlines or like a project that you have to do or research. So yeah, that's a plus. It's more of the. I found sometimes with those players, it was almost like the emotional stress of somebody like digging in and pushing your buttons and just couldn't quit, and you're like, that's about the only stress that was,
But when you think of it, I mean, a lot of times, I mean, somebody on LinkedIn once I read a really good article about like why your next employer should be somebody from casinos, because when you think of it, I mean, like you're doing like it is kind of a high pressure job, right? Every time you're doing it, because it's like real money, and it's real situations, and it's like really quick, and you have to make those calculations quick. And like say, like in poker, I mean, like you're doing this, these calculations about, it's a split pot, you have to do this, do that, and it's not, there's not many industries where you have to do things that quickly, and where you're going to get instant like feedback if you do something wrong, right? I mean, pressure from the players or pressure from the management. I mean, I've worked with places where managers like, oh my God, I can't believe John, he hit that number again. Get him off that table. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you get pressure because like you're losing, and you get pressure from. So I think I've always said this. I think casino dealers are highly underrated for the skill they provide, and because we pay for the most part. We get a lot of them are paid like shitty money. And they're like, oh, but you get tips. I'm like, yeah, but that's because I'm entertaining, or somebody else was entertaining, But they like the skill set that you, especially if you've been doing it for a few years. I mean, like you learn to be like, under pressure when some guy's been just rude and awful to you. But hey, he's betting a lot of money, and the casino's like, yeah, but he likes you. Like, oh my God, he's just making me feel like awful, for like an hour, and you're like, okay, I'll put up with it and put up with it. I mean, like a lot of industries, they won't do that, right? So I think, to be honest, casino dealers are highly underrated for the skill set they have.
Yeah, and now that you say that, when I think about the very first table that I ever dealt, I was like sweating and nervous. I can't count the cards. You got players. I think I had like 6 players at the table. They're all looking at you, or not really looking at you. They're looking at their cards, of course, because they don't really care who's dealing to them. It could be a robot, but you're messing around with their money. They're giving or taking their money, and then you're also calculating the cards at the same time and making sure your 7 and 3 adds to 10 and to 2 add, and all of a sudden so on, right? And you really don't want to mess up. And then, of course, as you go along, it just becomes second nature, and you're like, let's get this over with. But I remember the first time that I dealt, or that first like few weeks that you deal, and it is very stressful. And it can be. Yeah, you're under a lot of stress. And you're taking their money, and then they're not happy, and it would be better if you start off for the first 3 weeks and you just pay out, because it would just kind of ease you into the industry a little bit easier.
I remember telling Jay the story, but when I first learned craps back in Cardiff, I dealt for a year dealing roulette, and they asked me, me and 3 other people, they're like, oh, and then it was kind of prestigious, whatever, to learn craps, and they actually asked. They said, okay, will you come and deal craps? So my friend, there was 4 of us. We went to deal it. The training class was literally 1 week, an hour. I think it was an hour, maybe an hour and a half before we went to work, and it was a training class. So, and then they went, okay, go on a table, and I went on there, and literally, I had no idea really how to deal it. I kind of had an idea how to play it, and when I walked up to the table, it was so busy you couldn't see anybody. It was, they couldn't see the table. It was just full of players, and it was always like that. And we had a cage around the stick because it was so busy, right? They would be like this wooden kind of cage. And I remember coming up the stairs, and I turned and I saw this thing, and I was like, man, I have to go on the stick. And I was terrified. And I walked up, I got on the stick, and the guy sitting box, and he was a friend of mine. That was great. I've been there for a year. And he said, whatever you do, shout. Just shout the number, and then that we can figure it out. I was like, okay. And I started clearing my throat, going, "Ugh." And before every number, like 4. And within like 2-3 minutes, he was like, what the hell are you doing? I was like, what? He goes, why are you going? Ugh. I was like, I don't know. And I kept doing it every single one. And then, of course, all the other dealers picked up like, oh my God, what is John doing? And I couldn't stop. I was so nervous. I was like, so then it all made fun of me, which made me more nervous. I was like, oh my God. And then the players were doing it. I was like, what have I done?
No.
Yeah. So it was, and it was like, I was so nervous, sweating.
It was like it was almost like a nervous tick, because you were so nervous. You started.
I was so nervous, as tick, and then because they noticed it, and they were like piranhas, they were like, blood in the water, and they just attacked.
Oh my God.
Thinking back, it was funny, but
Oh, that
Yeah.
just like that gives me anxiety hearing that. Oh my God.
And it was funny because the guy really afterwards, he's like, John, we're trying to, and he was like, okay, we want you to shout so you concentrate on something else. That you concentrate on shouting and not the game and everything else. And it was, it was super busy. But all it made me do was thinking like, I have to shout. I can't shout. It was crazy. Like, honestly, God, 34 years later, I'm still traumatized by that freaking thing.
Oh yeah. Well,
It
and
was funny.
being put on a craps table, not knowing what to do would be like that's like one of those nightmares. I have casino nightmares still. I don't know. Do you guys have casino nightmares where I'm like,
No.
I'm 3 hours late for my shift, and I'm like, is it okay? Do you want me to just go on a table somewhere? And I don't recognize anything. It's just, and I'm not wearing my uniform. It's like and I can't, of course, I can't call Shelly or Steve or Chris to say, hey, I'm going to be late. And then I just show up 3 hours late after my shift. Or it's like there's like an hour left on my shift. It's just crazy. It's still there in the back of my head, I guess.
So, do you have any embarrassing story that you remember and can never get out of your mind? Because I mean, I do. Like, I always will. But is there one that you could share? Because, yeah.
I have so many embarrassing stories. Which one do I pick?
Or a funny story. Either or, right? So.
I think that one that pops into my head, which was I felt really terrible for, is that I was dealing cards to this guy, and he was losing. He just couldn't win, and he was such a nice guy, and his girlfriend was there with him, and she wasn't playing. It was just him who was playing, and he had crutches, like for a broken foot. And there was another player at the table, and I took all his money, and I said, I'm sorry things weren't better. And this is when I was a new dealer when Palace was by Zellers, and the other player was like, oh my God. And as the guy walked away, and he was like, oh, look what you did, he's got crutches on and you took all his money. And I said, oh my God, I'm so sorry, but he was missing a leg. So it was like, I'm like, oh no, you got an injured foot, I'm so sorry, and I took your money, but he was actually missing a leg. And I'm just like, it was kind of just one of those moments where it still kind of comes up in my mind where I wish I dealt with that differently.
I totally. Yeah, you're in the shower, and then you kind of revisit, and you're like, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. So it was very me sympathizing with him, and then all of a sudden, as he's walking away, he's kind of looking back at me like kind of offended, and then all of a sudden I see he's missing a leg, and I'm like, but yeah, I have a lot of embarrassing stories. There was like there was times where I remember dealing poker, and there was like a pot limit poker, and I couldn't do the math properly and stuff, and I was like, all of a sudden you start to sweat, and players are telling you it's $300, like, what, can't you do math, and I'm like, oh my God. Right. You deal the cards then.
Yeah. That's funny because I never even learned pot limit. So yeah, it was
very rare. They didn't have it very often, and when I tried to do it, I tried to gather the chips and stack them up so I can count them easily. But the players were so impatient. They were like, just come on, to get the cards out, and then all of a sudden you just end up putting the chips into a pile, and then you're like, oh crap, now I've lost count, right? So there's stressful moments like that, but yeah, I this is one of those things where we're going to talk right now, and when we're finished, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, there was that embarrassing moment, I should have shared that one.
My favorite thing, we've mentioned it before, I talked about it before, is it's like a shared community, like casinos, because all of us have had like, oh my God, the embarrassing experiences where we've done something like catastrophically wrong, and you're like, oh, that wasn't right. You know what I mean? Like, you can meet a complete stranger, you're like, oh my God, because a few weeks ago, I think it was like last week or a week or two before, we had somebody on. Neither Jay or I had met before, but she'd worked on ships. But we spoke for like 2 hours, even though none of us had met before. We never worked with each other. We kind of knew certain people, but it's a shared experience, right? We're like, oh yeah, we did this. I'm like, oh my God, so did I. And like, she was so cool, really was cool. But I think that's what it is. People who've never been in this industry will never understand what it's like to be in it, and to do something like where you're like, oh my God, I got so bad, I had no idea what, and that's why I think it's cool, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the best part is when you're like, oh my God, I messed up so bad, and you laugh because the other person's like, oh my God, I can relate to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's so many. It's great when you can sit there and kind of admit your moments, and people just like, yeah, they can share the same experience or similar experience. Like,
Like I said, like the first time I only dealt blackjack one time in Palace Casino. I was there for 5 years, and Ellen turned around. She said, the craps table had died, and she was like, John, I'd never seen you deal blackjack. Can you do it? I was like, yeah. She goes, okay, go on that like $3 blackjack. Remember, there used to be like the craps was there, and it was like a $3 like blackjack table next to it. So I got on it, and I'm like, yeah, go. And I saw the dollar on there, and I was like, oh my God, these guys love me. I thought it was tips. They're playing like the 7. I didn't know that. And I was like, oh my God, these guys are awesome. And I was like, oh. And I was ding, 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 ding. And I was like, Bell, I was going, oh yeah. And I was like, these guys love me. And I was there, and like, Ellen, after about 10 minutes, Ellen come and took me off, and I was like, oh my God, I was a rock star. Look how much I made. They were like, they were tips. I was like, what do you mean? They were like, for a bet. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. That's weird, so yeah.
Yeah, that was a new thing. I think that the last couple of years that I was there was like the 7s betting, and then there was like insurance.
Yeah, the 7s where they do like 3 7s or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like
same
for me,
suit.
Yeah.
That's right.
For me, when I was on ships, it was kind of the same spot was where they used to put like the tips for the dealers. I was like, oh my God, and it was ridiculous because all these guys, I was like, oh my God, Canadians are so generous. Look at them, everybody's tipping. Look at them, they have $3 bet and $1 for the dealers. You guys are the best. And they were looking at me like, the fuck, what the heck is going on? Who's this lunatic? That, to be honest, that's possibly why I only spent like 10 minutes ever dealing blackjack.
Oh, that's so funny. What were the tips like? I know the times that I've gone to visit back home, very few and far between, but when we went out, tipping wasn't really a thing like in Wales. So how did that work in the casinos?
Oh, in the casinos when I was there, for the longest time, you weren't allowed to tip. So the salary was higher, and people were like, to be honest, they didn't care. They'd be like, we were like rude. It was rude to people. If people were dicks to you, you'd be like, get out. And you'd just be a jerk. You're like, get out. You'd just be like, because we didn't need tips, right? Because nobody tipped us. Now you can tip. But back then, and it was even worse. When I trained, like I said about craps table, there wasn't another craps table for like, I think it was like 150 kilometers. So if craps players used to go there, and it'd be so busy, and we like the stick, I mean, we were jerks, to be honest. The glass was broke, right? There was a crack in the glass, and I used to sharpen the stick and whittle away with this crappy stick, and it was like a point. And because it was so busy, you'd be like, and we'd stab him, and it'd be like, get up, just get up. And it was chaos. You're like, you don't like it? As 100, you need to go to Birmingham to play craps. It was so they were like, and yeah, it was crazy.
They had to put up with it. Oh my God.
They had to put up with these crazy people, but it was so much fun. I mean, like the people you liked, obviously, you like, but if people were just jerks to us, you'd be like, just get out. I mean, yeah, it was fun. It was such a fun place to do.
They had one casino in Cardiff, and that was it, wasn't it?
Well, it used to be like, I trained in a place called the Croupiers, which was like on just down from the castle. There's a castle downtown, So it was like the croupiers, and I used to have like a smaller one around the corner. This was when I first started. It was like a Tiberius, whatever. It's a smaller casino. But the one I trained in was a privately owned one, and the guy was a gambler. So he'd be like, some players would go up to him and go, I want to bet like £300 on a number. They'd be like, okay. They'd be like, oh, let him bet this guy, and they would make up the maximums. It was crazy.
Oh my God, privately owned. Holy.
I used to deal to this guy, and I remember his name. He's probably passed away now, and he was his name was Shabibi, and he would walk in the afternoon, and everybody would be like, oh my God. And he used to play with like £100 chips. Well, back then in like the 80s was a lot of money, right? And he'd be like, here's $20,000. And he'd be like, okay, you pass them out in £100 chips. And he'd play them cash chips. And he was an eye surgeon. And he would play before going to work. And he would lose all his money. And he'd be shaking like that. And I would be like, oh my God, I hope to God he's not operating today or something. Because he'd be like, oh yeah, it was... But it was so much. I don't know. There was so much fun, I think, in casino stuff. And I just think, to be honest, I used to make people work like in the '60s because I'm older and I met people then, and they said it was like so much better then, and it kind of, I don't know, depending on the area, is it? I mean.
Yeah, and there'll be a group after us saying, do you remember the time that we took our breaks and we all looked at our phone and now we're doing this? Like it's going to be something different.
They'd be laughing. They'd go, oh my God, can you imagine? They were looking on your phone on break. Oh my God.
Wow, that sounds like so much fun. Good old days.
Okay. Right? All right. For a question for the two of you, what would it take to get you back into the industry? Tough, right?
Not much. I think that, but hearing the stories now of how it's kind of changed a lot, I don't know if I would have the same level of fun as I would back in the day. But I don't know if maybe the players are more numb now than they were back in the day, because of the level or the amount of casinos that we have. It's not as exciting. But I definitely, if I had the opportunity, I would go back and do it.
Okay, not much.
Yeah.
Not much.
Yeah.
What about you? What? Yeah. That's interesting. Interesting. Well,
like, to be honest, like the favorite, I'd spent 19 years in casinos, and 18 years of it was on craps. And the most fun I ever had, really, to be honest, was on craps and the people in crap, whatever, and dealing wise. But my favorite part was being on stick. I don't know why, I just loved it. The whole thing, like shouting stuff and making fun of people and the interaction and stuff like that. And I remember one time I tried to do it, and I was volunteered at this one place, and they had a funny money casino. I said, oh, can I go on stick? And they wouldn't let me. I was like, come on, I'm okay. I swear to God. And these guys were terrible dealers. I'm not being mean, but they were terrible. And I was like, come on, I'll just do it for fun. If I'm no good, you kick me off. But if I ever went back, and obviously I never will, I don't think, I would like to go back and go like how to show that you should have fun. You should have fun dealing it. And if you're having fun doing it, the people who are playing it will have fun dealing, playing with you, right? Because I remember you, Nick, dealing, and the guys, the people playing with you had so much fun, and that's because you had fun with them, and it created an amazing experience. I just don't think people are doing that anymore, and I think the people like us old timers, whatever. Obviously, I'm way older than all of you. Is if we ever went back, it would be to go like, you guys need. This is how you did it. This is how we made. The tips are way much better because we made it fun with these players. And I think that would be the only way I would ever go back into it, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that if the kids were out of school, maybe if I like kind of a part-time thing after retirement, or that kind of window, then I can't see myself jumping back into it now. I'm pretty happy at the AGLC. So, but I just have a lot of fond memories of it. But yeah, it's if it sounds like it's kind of like are the tips not as good, or the excitement is not as good as it used to be? Like, I haven't been in a casino in ages, so.
Well, I mean, I work once a month. Before like everything kind of happened, yeah, I was working like once a month, if that. And like we talked about it already, like with the phones and everything, it's completely different. But I mean, like, what was really cool where I work is I get to see I see Todd, right? And I worked with Todd like 20 years ago, right? So
Todd Craner?
yeah.
Oh
We
my
try not to
God.
use last names. I know, like,
Oh, sorry.
we're like an hour and 40 minutes in, but but
Sorry.
but that Todd, I mean, yeah. But you've always said nice things about the people, so that's good. But yeah, anyways, I mean, like, we still see people that, like, I see people that I got to work with like years and years ago, right? Right. So and that's really cool. But yeah, you know what? It's not the same. I think, to answer my own question, to go back, $50 an hour, big two upstairs, 20-minute breaks, potlucks, events like where we go out. I miss the bar in the front with all the drinks set up for 2 o'clock. Closing the casino at 2. You know what I
Oh,
mean? There's so
right.
many things that I can just rifle off and be like, yeah,
Wow.
this is what I would want to come back, right? But, I mean, craps is huge too, right? I love craps. No signal.
My retirement plan is to retire and have enough money not to work, but go back and deal low limit blackjack and just be like, I'll be like, just annoy him. Just like, I work Friday night with all the drunk kids. I'd be like, so I'm deaf. Not that I am, but I'd be like, just to toy with them, just to, like, what? Like, just to amuse myself.
You're gonna hit
I think,
that. You're gonna hit that.
yeah.
And then
I mean,
tell
like,
them like an old story, like back in my day. Like, you don't even, like, just keep the cards out on the table and be like, tell them a story about back in my day.
Exactly, and have that story last 45 minutes. And it never, yeah, and exactly, and it never ends. They don't even get to the point, and then new dealer, and then you just walk away. and deal as slow as possible. If they're like angry, sorry.
That's the dream right there. That would be lots of fun.
Exactly that. That's the only way I'm probably going to get back into the industry is when I'm old and retired, and I'm just doing it for vengeance.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, if it wouldn't take much, right? It's about people, and both of you have said that already. And I think that if you had the right people in the right environment, like a really, respectable workplace where it's just like, if you do little things like that for your staff, I think that it would be a great place to go to. And again, like, career-wise, there's other things that you can do, other avenues. But in all honesty, for me, like, to have it as a part-time gig is cool. I get to be social. I'm part of their fantasy football league, things like that. We get to do really cool things on the side too. So, yeah.
Awesome.
I miss Christmas parties, right?
The Christmas parties. Oh, there were some barn burners, I tell you. Oh my God.
So, okay, I have one story because I did share a birthday, and this is a Matt story, and so I was working 2 jobs at the time, and I was working at the Palace and I was working at Reds, and it was really a really cool gig at the time. We started the day at Palace, and there's a bunch of us, and there's Jay the bartender. He gave me 10 shots in 30 minutes, which seems kind of moderate, but every 3 minutes it was this shot, and it was the grossest shot that I've ever had. So one was like a brain hemorrhage, and one was, I don't know, like 649. So yeah, also, whatever. I name all of these shots, and some of them he was like looking in a book to kind of make these gross ones. I thought I was fine. I get to Reds, and I was like, oh, I'm really cool. Like, here are my casino friends, right? I'm just gonna show off my casino friends to all the Reds people. I get in there and I throw up right away, and it was so bad. It was so bad. I still like the image of me like growing up is still in my head. You know, if we talk about embarrassing stories. So I am passed out in my second job, and then the security guards that know me, they're like, "Hey, why don't you go outside? You need some fresh air." I'm like, "You know what? That was a good idea." I didn't know I was getting kicked out, so I got kicked out. I was outside. This is summer, right? My birthday is in July, and I'm just like sitting out there like an idiot. And I know people coming in, starting their shift, so then it was even worse. Anyways, Matt at the time, and I believe the two of you were together because he came in. He worked at a used car place. Is that true? Yes, right? Comes in with this. It's a baby blue Cadillac, I believe. I think it was a convertible.
Oh no, it was a Corvette.
Was that a Corvette? It was.
I think it was a Corvette.
Okay, well, it was huge. Okay, and what ended up happening was that they dumped me in the back seat of that car.
Oh, then it wouldn't be a Corvette then, because Corvettes don't have. Yeah.
I think you should ask him because I'm sure it was a Cadillac. It was like a nice oldies car that. But then the whole group of people, they dumped me in the back and went in and went bowling without me. So I was passed out in the back seat of this used car, right? Like I don't know if he owned it or if he was just driving it, but I was out. My wallet was like in my pocket. Somebody could have like robbed me or whatever, but I'm just out there. And then they ended up coming out. I don't even remember what happened after that, but that was like my birthday, and I only remember 30 minutes of it, and it was the 30 minutes at the palace. But I remember Matt coming.
They ruined that though. Like that's. So I'm gonna have to ask him about that. But I remember that group of people, or the whole group of people that I usually had trouble with, whatever, or we were trouble. It was like there was a celebration, and it was like shooters, and it was like it was almost like your night was over before it started. It was like here, and it was like double jacks, yeah, all these awful shooters, and just bang, 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 and it was put in front of you, and they were like go, 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 and then you were a mess. Like you were like blackout drunk within an hour, hour and a half, and everybody off is partying and having fun, and you're like, yeah, there's. Yeah, it's like you don't even want to tell them it was a party or your birthday or anything, right? So,
but wasn't that one of the cool things about working at the mall at the time? Because like as soon as you get there was so many other places you could go to. Do you know what I mean? Like you'd finish work, you'd drink at the casino bar at the time. Remember, they used to be at the front, and then you could go downstairs. There was that kind of like an English bar downstairs.
The Elephant Castle.
Elephant and Castle. Elephant and Castle. And then you can go down to Bourbon Street and drink there. Once you got there, it was like, we don't really need to go anywhere else. Yeah. We can figure out how to get home afterwards. Or you just meet people in BPs afterwards at like 2:00 in the morning to drink with them.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh my God, that's bringing back memories. You used to call ahead at BPs
and how many was it team
pictures? Yeah. They were like massive. They were so big. It was bittersweet, right? You finish your shift, and then all of a sudden, there was all these bars right there at your disposal, and you would be like, "Hey, I'm sick of this one. Let's go to the next one," or you get kicked, or one of you gets kicked out. So then you end up going to you all go to a different one, right? So,
I remember driving home one time, and I obviously shouldn't have, and I had a shitty car. And it was like a Hyundai XL. It was this crappy car. And I'd lost one of the windshield wipers on the passenger side. And I was like, and I put a sock on it. It was a sock I found in my car. I was like, a black sock. I was like, because otherwise it made that screeching noise, like, eep. I was like, that's annoying. So I put a sock over it. I was like, I'll get a wiper at some point. I never did. And it kind of just did this like weird, like stuttering noise. And I went up with the BPs afterwards, like a party and whatever, went to BPs, came out. I was like, okay, I got to drive home now. And I live in the north side, so basically up 170th Street. And I might have been too drunk to drive, probably. And I just kind of created like a porthole, like one little hole in the middle, two little sides so I could see the mirror. And I drove up 170th and like, almost 3:00 in the morning. I was like
smoking.
Sure. At the time, I gave up smoking in 2000. But I was like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure this is not a good idea. I couldn't see anything. Like literally like this much, and I could see them, and I was like, I had no idea who was in front of me, behind me, or anything. It was just, and this weird sock. And I remember driving. I was like, man, I should change that for a glove because that'd be so much fun if I could wave to people as I'm driving home in the snow.
Patent pending. That's a great
Exactly,
idea
yeah, I
for
was
windshield
like,
wipers.
Exactly.
Right.
We just have a glove. How much fun? Exactly.
Right?
It's like jazz hands.
That's $1 million idea, I tell you.
So Nick, see now you see why this 30-minute like chat ends up being like 2 hours.
Oh, wow. Look at that. Yeah, it's 10 to 10. I was thinking, I'm like, when Jay Lee asked me to do this, I was like flattered. And I'm like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, I don't really have anything to talk about, but prove me a liar, right?
But it does, it's just like, I don't know, it's Jay Lee, to be honest. We just chat about stuff. It's like, oh my God, remember? And that's what I mean. Like the whole thing is, we just have, we were connected by a similar experience, right? Like, and fortunately we have similar friends. We can talk about, similar friends, but even that, when, it's like, okay, well, you can talk to somebody from, different places and they'd be like, oh my God, I did this on a blackjack table. And you were like, you may never have worked with them, be like, oh shit, I did that too. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is, oh my goodness. But this, I got to thank you guys for actually making this group, because once you made the group and I saw all these names pop up, and I was like, it really brought back a lot of memories, because you're out of the industry for such a long time. You're doing your thing. You're doing different jobs. But then even like with Wyatt McNabb was like, hey, Nicola. And I'm like, oh my God, Wyatt, it's just a name you don't hear. And then all of a sudden it pops back up after 20 years, or sorry, under 20 years. But yeah, it was really, it's really nice, I think, just to kind of relive it a little bit.
Well, it's to be honest, it's most of this is all really down to Jay, right? Because it was Jay's idea to like kind of start the group, and because he reached out to me and he's like, hey John, do you want to come on? We can have a chat. And it started out like literally like, oh, we'll start for like half an hour, and it was like 3 hours. It was like, yeah, we just chatted for hours and hours. It was like, and it was so much fun. To be honest, for me, it was like, oh my God, this is fun. He goes, do you want to do it again? I was like, yeah, okay, we could do it. And now 6 months later, we're still doing it.
No, it's awesome. Yeah. I once in a while I'll peek in and take a look to see who's talking, and yeah, it's really half of the people I recognize. Where there's Michelle and Alex, then Chris was on, and
oh yeah,
who was
Juan.
She was playing Pai Gow. There's Nicole. Sorry, Nicole W.
Yeah,
Sarah's careful there. Oh my goodness, what was the other name? Mandy.
There's Joe. Quan was our first guest on the show, right?
I missed that one.
Yeah. So
I remember Quan.
Yeah, he was one of the first, unless you count Mike. Like Mike was really technically the first, but yeah, I mean, but really, it wasn't about the creation of the group. The group made itself. Like the whole thing with the Casino Industry Canada was just people networking with each other, right? It was our idea to begin with, but I mean, John's been doing a lot of the legwork and whatnot, and we ended up making it private because we didn't want it to be it is a community, right? And we didn't want it to just explode and be like a bunch of people, and there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of issues coming up now, so it's like, do we really want to talk about masks or unions or the government or COVID or it's not really about that. It was about people, and it was just about sharing the stories and giving advice to people, the next generation, for people that never got to work with you or John, right, or Mike for that matter. So it's not me, it's about everybody, and I love it, and it's great, and this is why I totally have the utmost respect of the people that I got to work with. I miss it, and it was great to have. It's great to have you on, and it's. I'm very blessed to have worked with people like that before. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad and I feel lucky that I had that experience. So
Yeah.
And it's really cool. Just one of the things I like, and I think what a lot of people do like about some of these things that like these calls is that you get to catch up and to go like, oh my God, Nicole, we hear like how great you're doing, and like you and Matt, you got some kids, and it's like, oh my God, like it's really kind of cool to reconnect with people that we work with that we liked. Maybe if you didn't like somebody, you'd be like, oh, fuck, I can't believe that person. You know what I mean? Like, because and it's really cool to like, oh my God, this person is doing great, right? And to just reconnect.
yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, guys. I had lots of fun. I was a little bit like skeptical. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to talk about? They're going to be completely bored with what I have to say. But yeah, it was fun for me. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah, no, yeah. To add to John's point, I mean, I wanted to see you again because like we worked 20 years ago, so it's just like, wow, it's so cool to have you on this channel. Like you're on the Casino Industry Canada channel, but I know like we've all been kind of Facebook friends for a little while, but like honestly, to like actually have you on and to chat with you, like this is the closest we'll get to face, with everything happening. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I totally appreciate it.
Hopefully Loretta can organize one of those like group gatherings again in maybe the fall or whatever, whenever this all kind of calms down, right? So
it was to say that. I mean, like I remember one time, like Loretta posted one, in like the last time, which was like 3 years ago, and it was in Sherlock Holmes, and that was so much fun. I was like, oh my God, it's like 3 years ago. But I think things like this, it was like, oh my God, let's get together again and just meet and like, because and have fun and drinks and just laugh and joke, because it doesn't matter, like, all right, we haven't seen each other for like, oh my God, 15 years, 20 years, whatever. We'll still laugh and joke because, we had laughs and jokes in life when we were together. I mean, it doesn't matter there's been a big gap between the time we spoke. It's the fact when we get together, we used to have fun before, we will have fun again, right? So
yes, absolutely.
hopefully, yeah, so I really can't wait to do this again, like in person. And hopefully Matt will be there because Matt is awesome. And I'm glad because to be honest, I don't think I've met in the Palace a more suited couple than you and Matt. You were awesome.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm so glad that you are together and you got 2 kids and you're doing great together.
I'm lucky. I'm like, that's one thing, like with the casino is meeting you guys, but I really got like honestly the best husband out of it. So it's not to sit there and toot my horn, but he's a great guy. And toot his horn, but
that's in private.
Yeah. Right. But he's great and we have lots of fun, and he's just a barrel of laughs. He hasn't changed a bit since I've met him.
That's awesome. So he is still funny.
He's funny all the time. He's like
we
funny.
should have Matt on because Matt was really fun.
I'll ask him. He might be. Yeah, we'll see. I think he's a little bit. I don't know if he's camera shy but I'll ask.
Yeah,
he's camera shy, and he was a stand-up comedian.
I know.
Yeah, connects.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Understood.
But don't you think? I mean, like how, like when I said earlier, before we even started and went live, like you're like, oh my God, it'll go so fast. And like now, literally, it's 2 hours in, and we just
10 o'clock.
chatted. Yeah, 10 o'clock, and we just chatted about like nothing particular, but it's gone like 2 hours have flown by.
Yeah, it's like a drink after work. You're like, oh my God, I got to go home.
I go work in the morning, but yeah.
Well, it's cool. Hey, you got people said hi, right? And it was really cool to kind of see them on. And I don't know if you've like seen like Daryl. When was the last time you saw him or talked with him or someone like Jason?
In the casino, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't see very many people. It's kind of just an accidental, you just bump into somebody and you're like, hey, and so like I said with Joe, I'm like, oh my God, you haven't changed a bit, because
He hasn't. So he was an easy one. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know you.
This is his reply to that. That's funny.
Funny.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. I still have like I have embarrassing BP stories that we'll share later on in the channel. But yeah. But thank you. Yeah. You brought up a lot more stories that I completely forgot, but I do remember. I remember that birthday one because I was like the
and sorry if I said too much about people's names and first names and last names, so I apologize to those people.
Oh no, it's very respectful. It is within the Casino Industry Canada group, so and my channel. So. John?
So now, Nick, it's so great to see you. It really is. I'm so happy to that you and Matt are doing great. And you know, we're not friends on Facebook, but I just saw that I'm not sure why.
I can friend you right now.
John and I weren't friends on Facebook for 20 years, so
it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen, and I will. But it's great, and I'm really happy that you came on, and it was so much fun to actually chat with you for the last 2 hours. About stuff, and so thanks for coming on. It's been so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it, and yeah, this was a blast and a blast from the past. So it was really good talking about all the people and the how to pre-order drinks and when we used to pre-order drinks and stuff. That really brought back the memories. And then the memories disappeared again, right?
So quickly, any final shout outs to anybody?
Oh my god, I have so many. I'd probably forget. There's just so many people that I just reading on the Facebook feed about their favorite supervisors and people that they remember working in the industry. And then I think I mentioned them before, with Mike and Chris and Steve and Shelly and Ellen, and I did Xerxes. I just so many Ronell, on and on and on and on, right? Jackie, I remember Vivian. I'm sounding like that kids show now is an IC John, and the magic, that circle, whatever they're called, I can't remember now, but they were just all great, and they dealt with my shenanigans and my drama and my craziness, and they had me employed for 8 years, and I had lots of fun. So thanks to all those OG Palace people that hired me and kept me there and put up with my BS and my irreverent behavior.
So that's awesome. I mean, it really it's been so great. So I'm gonna drop off, but see you, Jay. See you, Nick. Say hi to Matt.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Guys. Take care.
Thank you.